You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Hello and welcome to Weather Watch on Germantown Municipal Television. I'm your host, Finnegan Gruggett, a student here at Houston High School. Bob Wallace, Public Affairs with the American Red Cross MidSouth chapter, is here to talk about how the American Red Cross helps in the event of a natural disaster. Thank you for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So would you mind explaining how you got with the American Red Cross?
Well, a few years ago, I moved back to Memphis, which is my hometown. I grew up here in the Midtown area of Memphis, but was gone most of my life due to work and the various jobs that I had. But Memphis always felt like home, so when I retired, my wife and I moved back here to the Memphis area. And I was looking for something interesting and meaningful to do in retirement years. You know, something that would allow me to continue to use the skills I had developed over a lifetime. So one of the Red Cross was one of the first places I thought of. It wasn't the only one, and I looked at several places, but the Red Cross had special meaning for me anyway. I grew up here in Memphis taking Red Cross swimming lessons at the old, the huge swimming pool that used to be at the fairgrounds. And during college, I actually went to North Carolina to participate in a Red Cross National Aquatic School. And while I was there, I was approached about whether or not I might be interested in a career in the Red Cross. And I wasn't at the time. I wanted to go to graduate school. But you know, you always wonder about those paths not taken. So in retirement now, I'm sort of exploring that path that was not taken many years ago.
So prior to the American Red Cross, did you have anything to do with public service or dealing with emergencies?
Not with dealing with emergencies, but I was a professor at New York University in Manhattan. And I also, along the way, got a degree in science journalism, so I was a freelance science writer. So that sort of led me into the public affairs function for the Red Cross.
So what exactly is the Red Cross, in case the viewer at home doesn't know?
The Red Cross, actually we're part of the International Red Cross, which is the largest humanitarian organization in the world. And there are currently 190 different Red Cross or Red Crescent societies in countries around the world. And in some places, being a Red Cross worker, you really put your life in danger. For example, just this week, there were 9 International Red Cross staff members who were killed in Afghanistan. And during the awful scenario that's gone on in Syria over the last 5 or 6 years, there have been well over 55 Red Cross workers who have been killed. So the Red Cross provides humanitarian relief in the face of disasters, either man-made or natural disasters. And the International Red Cross also oversees the Geneva Conventions. And it was actually the adoption of the Geneva Conventions was where the Red Cross started back in the late 1800s.
So what are some of the things the Red Cross offers in natural disaster areas?
Well, in the natural disaster area, especially here in Memphis, one of the largest ongoing disasters that we have are home fires. And a lot of people don't realize it, but the Red Cross here responds anywhere from, on average, from 2 to 3 times a day to people who have had their homes either destroyed or heavily damaged by a home fire. Last year, we assisted 900 families. So the way that works is that when the fire department responds to a fire, and they see that there are people standing on the sidewalk in their pajamas in the middle of the night, but when they see a family that needs assistance, they give us a call. And we have people on standby around the clock, people who are willing to roll out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning in the middle of winter and go out. And our role is to provide immediate assistance for the first few days after that event. So depending upon what they need, we can provide them resources for a place to stay, food, maybe clothing. They may be standing there barefooted, okay? Often medications are destroyed. So we can help them get those replaced fairly quickly.
Okay, so after the first few days, then what happens?
Yeah.
Is there another program?
Yeah, and then if there is often they are able to actually find a way to, once they get over that huge initial shock, especially if they have insurance, then there are other means of help that kick in. But if they need additional assistance, then we sit down with them and we can then refer them to a lot of the other agencies here in town. That will carry it on from there.
Okay, so let's switch gears a little and talk about blood donations.
Okay.
Are you guys big into blood donations? Are you guys one of the major providers of blood?
Yeah. There are actually 5 different areas of service that the Red Cross provides, and biomedical service is one of them. Blood collection and blood products is a huge area of work for the Red Cross. Every day, every 2 seconds on average, someone in the U.S. needs a blood or a blood product. And the Red Cross provides approximately 40% of that product across the nation. And that amounts to about 5.1 million units of blood every year. And in order to provide that, we have to have somewhere around 3 million donors who come to our blood drives and provide blood.
Now, how would somebody at home find out where these blood drives are?
There are a variety of ways. You can, number one, you can always call 1-800 Red Cross, and you talk to a real person and they can give you the information. You can go online to redcrossblood.org, okay? And the third way is that you can download the Red Cross Blood app for your smartphone. Most of us carry these things these days. And the Red Cross has produced some really great apps to use on those smartphones. So if you go to the App Store, wherever you grab apps for your phone and search Red Cross, you'll come across a whole slew of various apps. And one of them is for blood. Download it. They're all free. And you can actually sign up for a blood drive through that app.
And then there's various other information they can find in the apps as well.
Oh, absolutely. One of the best apps that I really encourage everybody to get is what we call the emergency app. And it can be programmed to give you an audible signal. Depending upon where you are and what type of emergencies might occur, but say there's a tornado warning in your area, then you'll get a signal. It wakes you up in the middle of the night, because mine has done it for me, and tell you. If you live on the West Coast somewhere, you can actually set it up to tell you if there's a tsunami warning. So all different types of warning, a winter weather watch, all kinds of things that you can get help from.
Well, we have to take a quick break. We'll be back in a minute to talk more with Bob Wallace. Please stay with us.
Hey, look, it's those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
You go and step out of the vehicle for me?
See ya, buddy. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
Cinderella found the pet that fits her perfectly. Tiana gave her pet the royal treatment. Belle found beauty where no one else did. And you can too. Share your heart. Share your love. Bring home your forever friend. Make a shelter pet part of your world. Happily Ever After begins at theshelterpetproject.org.
You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back. I'm Finnegan Gruggett, and you're viewing Weather Watch. We'll continue our discussion about the American Red Cross with Bob Wallace. So earlier we were talking about what the Red Cross is. So exactly in the event of a natural disaster, say the Gatlinburg fires, what was your main goal there?
Well, the Gatlinburg fires occurred very unexpectedly. They happened in the evening. By 10 o'clock that evening, the fires came through. I was getting a phone call asking, can you respond? I was like many Red Cross volunteers across the state of Tennessee, which is our region, and we were all mobilizing and getting ready to head to Gatlinburg. That night, all night long, we had Red Cross volunteers from the East Tennessee region who were busy setting up shelters, and there were people pouring into one of the three different shelters that were set up in the Gatlinburg Pigeon Forge area. Before the night was over, we had over 1,200 people in those shelters.
Well, so you guys come in after first responders have gone to the scene?
That's right. The Red Cross is not a first responder in the sense that, let's say, our fire and our police, sometimes our military, are first responders. We come in after the fact. Usually we always come in when things have stabilized to the point to where there's not a severe danger to our volunteers. But we'll come in after the fact, and then we will help with the response to provide people a safe, secure place to stay, food, emotional support, especially in those first few days after a disaster strikes.
Okay, and what are some of the supplies you guys use the most up in the Gatlinburg area?
Oh, in the Gatlinburg area, I mean, we had hundreds and hundreds of cots set up, and the place that I spent most of the time was a huge athletic facility there in Gatlinburg. I mean, the floor space had actually room for 6 full-size basketball courts, so it was enormous. And we set up different areas. We would set up cots. These are not fancy places to stay, but it provides people a place to sleep, and we bring in blankets. We have preset agreements with local people to help us provide foods. We have preset agreements for the locations for where these shelters will occur. Here in the Shelby County area, we have existing relationships with any number of places like this where when something happens here, we can set up a shelter at a moment's notice. And the MidSouth Red Cross has trailers dispersed around in strategic areas in our area so that if a tornado hit, we didn't destroy all of our supplies at one time. But each one of those trailers is enough to provide facilities for 100 people. And then the way it works is that the response initially for the Red Cross is local. And then if it's something really large where the local resources are soon outstripped, then we go to our region, which is all of Tennessee. So people start pouring in from Tennessee. If that's still not enough, we go to our division, which is all of the Southeast down into the Caribbean. We bring in supplies, we bring in people, and in the really big responses such as Hurricane Sandy, it's nationwide. Hurricane Sandy was my first response, and when I was there, I was one of 6,000 Red Cross responders from all over the country.
So before a storm's coming in, is there any notification you guys get to, say, prepare? We possibly may be deploying you guys into the area, say if a hurricane's coming? Yeah,
a good example is Hurricane Matthew that occurred last year. We had, plenty of warning that this hurricane was heading and it was going to run up the East Coast. And well before the hurricane hit, I got a call asking me if I could deploy to South Carolina. So I was actually in Charleston, South Carolina as a Red Cross volunteer, positioned in a safe location, but when the hurricane actually came in. So in some cases, we do pre-position people in places either close to or at the site where we expect something to occur if we can keep them safe. The first priority is keeping our volunteers safe.
Okay, and does the Red Cross give you supplies if they have to deploy you? Do you already have supplies with you, or is it at the location?
Most of the supplies will be at the location. The Red Cross will help me by providing me transportation, and I have a pretty good idea usually of what I need to have packed and ready to go to supply a disaster. I'm part of what's called the Advanced Public Affairs team, and when I'm on call with them, which I have to be by agreement 2 months out of the year, I have to be ready to leave on a 4-hour notice.
Okay, so what's the partnership like with local first responders when there's a natural disaster?
Yeah, well, just like with the fire department, we have a close relationship with the Memphis and Shelby County Fire Department. They're the ones who call us when they see that there's a need for a family that needs help. And the Red Cross has a huge push right now to try to reduce deaths due to home fires by 25%. And what we're doing is that we're going into the neighborhoods where we have lots and lots of fire calls, and we are making sure that people have smoke alarms, and we're installing smoke alarms free. And we're doing that in collaboration with the fire departments in those areas.
So what are some of the different volunteer opportunities that you guys offer?
Yeah. Lots of volunteer opportunities and lots of different niches where a person can be a volunteer. If somebody's interested in doing that, go to redcross.org, and there's a little up at the top says how to be involved. Hit that and go down, there'll be a volunteer application. Fill it out, somebody will contact you. But then you go in, we have a series of training courses. There's an overview course that sort of gives the philosophy of the Red Cross, a little bit of our history, and goes through some of the many different opportunities. And then from there, there's specialized training. You might become a member of one of our disaster action teams, one of those teams that go out at night. But there are lots of different opportunities.
Okay, well, we have to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. Please stay with us.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
So they say it's a man's world? I don't see anybody's name on it. While they were doing their thing, we slowly changed all that. Today, women can do anything men can do. And there's one thing we're even better at.
You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back. I'm Finnegan Gruggett, and you're tuned in to Weather Watch. We want to spend our last moments talking about some natural disasters Mr. Wallace has responded to and how the Red Cross training actually worked out in the field. So as we start the third segment, would you mind talking about some of the natural disasters you personally responded to?
Yeah, since I've been a volunteer a little over 5 years, I've responded 19 different times I've deployed with the Red Cross. Some of those have been major disasters, like my first, which was Hurricane Sandy. Some of them have been still disasters, but they've been more of a localized thing, such as flooding of the Mississippi River in the Memphis area. But the most recent was East Tennessee with the wildfires that went through Gatlinburg. One of the ones that I responded to was in Alberta, Canada, with the Canadian Red Cross. And we had a contingent of American Red Cross people there. And in that particular case, it was a wildfire that came through the Fort McMurray and destroyed huge subdivisions that were reduced to ashes in the wake of this wildfire. And the people that lived there had been under mandatory evacuation for 30 days. So they were coming back home, and the Red Cross was there to help them get reestablished. And I was delighted to be part of that effort there.
So what did you personally do there up in Canada?
Yeah, my job is usually I'm part of the public affairs function for the Red Cross. So my job is usually to tell the story of what the Red Cross is doing, and also to get critical information out to the residents in the particular area and the clients that we're working to help. So I do photography, I write stories, I get in front of the camera and talk to the media and give interviews. In Gatlinburg, the first few days, we had media from all over the U.S. and internationally. And it was just one interview after another, telling what was happening and what the Red Cross was there doing.
Okay, so you basically tell the public that's not in the exact area what's going on?
That's right, that's right. And the Red Cross is not a government agency. People don't realize that. And we don't get funding for our disaster services from the government. So it's absolutely critical that we get the message out, because that's the other side of our fundraising. And fundraising through the generosity of the American people and American companies, that's what keeps us alive and keeps us functioning.
So you guys are a nonprofit organization?
We are a nonprofit organization, that's right.
Fully funded off donations?
Fully funded. One of our divisions is service to the armed forces, where we provide communication services between members of the armed forces and emergencies, and do some counseling pre and post deployment. Some of that is funded by the government. But all of the disaster response aspect is funded by donations and by money that we make through our blood services and through teaching courses and so forth. The American Red Cross is a huge organization with a budget of close to $3 billion. And of that, about $66 million comes to from the government for services to the armed forces.
Okay, so out of all the natural disasters you've responded to, has there been any difference in what type of supplies you guys need to give to the public that's been affected by it?
Yeah, almost always there's a need for sheltering. That's sort of a constant. So those, and food, and for emotional support, those types of things are pretty much a constant. But we do have, depending upon the particular type of disaster that it is, that will vary slightly as to what's needed. And part of what we try to do is to be mobile, and that we can change from depending upon what's needed at the site.
Okay, is there any partnership between the Red Cross and FEMA?
Yeah, yes, we are close partners with FEMA, and we actually have a understanding as part of the FEMA function that the American Red Cross provides the sheltering aspect of their responsibilities. So we have a close-knit relationship with FEMA.
So on a disaster scene, you guys are in constant contact back and forth?
Absolutely.
Okay, so how long does the American Red Cross help somebody after they've been impacted?
Yeah, usually with our disaster response, we are there immediately, and we are the agency that happens in the aftermath. But we often have a longer-term response, and we are still there even when there's not after the disaster is completely over. helping to prepare people to be ready the next time something happens. It's part of our disaster cycle. We're either responding, an initial response, we're doing a long-term help to people to recover from that response, or we're helping them to prepare for the next one. So we're always there. Maybe not as with 6,000 volunteers from all over the country, but for example, your MidSouth Red Cross is always here.
So what are some of the things you guys do to prepare the public for natural disasters?
One of the things we do is we go out and do talks like we're talking about today, so people know that we're here. I go out to various organizations and give preparedness talks. I talk about, it's important to make a plan, to have an emergency kit, stay informed about what's going on in our community. I talk about what do you put in that emergency kit. We probably don't have time to go into that, but it's on redcross.org, so a person can go and look it up. My wife is involved in what's called the pillowcase classes, and this is a collaboration with Disney, where she goes into 3rd to 5th grade classes across the county and gives preparedness talks about what to do if there's a home fire or if there was a tornado. And the kids all get a pillowcase, okay, and they decorate it based upon what they learned, and they then take it home with them as a reminder of their disaster preparedness. So we do a lot of preparedness classes like this.
Okay, so it's not just natural disasters,
No,
it's also man-made disasters.
Absolutely, absolutely. Memphis is a huge transportation hub. So one of the things that would be a nightmare is if we had some type of huge chemical spill. Okay, the Red Cross would be involved in responding to that once it was safe to do so. But it's one of the reasons in our disaster kits we encourage people to have duct tape and plastic sheeting, because if you have to shelter in place while there are toxic fumes in the area, it's a way of sealing yourself off inside your home. So yes, all of those things that we are involved in teaching and preparing for.
Well, we're pretty much out of time, but I'd like to thank you for coming on to the show.
Great, it's been great talking to you.
Thank you. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. I'd like to thank Bob Wallace for taking the time out of his day to be on our show. If you'd like to learn more about this show or simply watch more of our programs, please visit www.gmtvonline.org. Until next time, this has been Finnegan Gruggett for this month's installment of Weather Watch.